You've been doing everything right, and it's still not working. The gym sessions, the protein shakes, the split routines you found at midnight on some forum written by someone with a username and no face, the soreness you wore like proof, the scale you checked every morning with the specific hope and specific disappointment that became its own exhausting ritual. You've been showing up consistently, painfully. And somewhere between the effort you're putting in and the results you're not seeing, something is wrong, and nobody in your gym, nobody in your feed, nobody selling you supplements has told you what it actually is. What if the problem isn't your effort? What if the problem is that almost everything the fitness industry taught you about building muscle is built on an incomplete picture, and the three things that would actually change your results are so far outside the conventional conversation that most people dismiss them before they even try? Because the science of muscle growth has moved dramatically, and the gap between what researchers now understand about how muscle actually builds and what gets repeated in gyms and on packaging and in comment sections is so wide it should make you furious, not at yourself, at the system that kept selling you the same story while the real science was sitting in journals nobody told you to read. This is not about a new exercise. This is not about a different protein. This is about three mechanisms inside your body that govern muscle growth at a cellular level, mechanisms that most people training for years have never once deliberately activated, and the first one alone is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about recovery. Keep watching, because method 3 is the one that's going to genuinely shock you, and it's the one that requires the least effort of all three, which makes it the most maddening thing you'll hear all week. Here's what your fitness content never told you about muscle. Muscle doesn't grow in the gym. You already know that intellectually. But do you actually train like you believe it? Because if you did, your relationship with rest, with sleep, with the hours between workouts would look completely different than it probably does right now. Muscle grows in the repair window, the period after training when your body assesses the damage, recruits resources, and rebuilds the tissue slightly thicker, slightly stronger than before. That process is biological. It is governed by hormones, by cellular signaling, by the nutritional and neurological environment your body is operating in when you are nowhere near a weight. And that environment, the one outside the gym, is the one almost nobody is optimizing because it's less visible. It doesn't feel like effort, and the fitness industry cannot sell it to you in a tub. The first method is about something called mechanotransduction, the way your muscle cells convert physical tension into a biochemical growth signal. Most people understand that lifting heavy triggers growth. What most people don't understand is that the signal strength is dramatically amplified by one specific training variable that gyms almost never program deliberately, and that is the eccentric phase, the lowering, the part of the repetition that most people rush through to get back to the part that feels like work. Research now shows that slow, controlled eccentric loading generates significantly greater mechanical tension at the cellular level, activates satellite cells, the stem cells of muscle tissue more aggressively, and produces greater muscle protein synthesis than concentric loading alone. The part you've been treating as the rest between the real reps is actually where a significant portion of the growth signal lives. Slowing your lowering phase to 3, 4, 5 seconds per repetition is not a technique tweak. It is a fundamentally different stimulus to your muscle cells, and most people training for years have never done it systematically. The second method goes somewhere most fitness conversations refuse to go: your gut, your microbiome. The trillions of bacteria living in your digestive tract that you were probably not thinking about when you packed your gym bag this morning. Research emerging from sports science and gastroenterology in the last several years has identified something that changes the muscle conversation entirely. Specific strains of gut bacteria are directly involved in the metabolism of amino acids, the building blocks of muscle protein. A depleted, low-diversity microbiome, the kind produced by chronic stress, poor sleep, ultra-processed food, and repeated antibiotic use, does not metabolize protein efficiently. It cannot extract and deliver amino acids to muscle tissue the way a healthy, diverse gut ecosystem can. This means two people can eat identical amounts of protein and train identically, and the one with the healthier gut will build more muscle, not because of genetics, not because of effort, because of what is happening in their digestive tract before the protein ever reaches a muscle cell. The fitness industry sold you protein quantity. The science says gut health determines protein utility. Those are not the same conversation. Now stop, because what comes third is the method nobody sees coming, and it is the one that has the most psychological resistance attached to it, which is exactly why it works for the fewest people despite being available to everyone. Sleep, not more sleep, smarter sleep. Specifically, the deep, slow-wave sleep stages that most people, particularly people living under chronic stress, which is most people, are not reaching consistently or staying in long enough. During slow-wave sleep, your body releases the majority of its daily growth hormone, not a trickle, the majority. Growth hormone is not just a performance drug that athletes abuse. It is the primary biological signal that tells your body to prioritize tissue repair and muscle protein synthesis over everything else. It is the switch that turns the recovery window from passive rest into active rebuilding. And chronic sleep deprivation, even the moderate kind, 6 hours instead of 8, disrupted sleep instead of deep sleep, nights broken by cortisol from stress that never fully powered down, suppresses growth hormone release in ways that no training program, no supplement stack, no protein timing strategy can compensate for. You can train perfectly, you can eat precisely, and if your slow-wave sleep is being robbed by stress, by screens, by alcohol, by a nervous system running on cortisol at midnight, your muscle growth is being silently capped by a ceiling you cannot see and cannot lift in the gym. The third method is not adding something. It is removing the thing that is quietly stealing the results of everything else you're doing. Here is what makes all three of these methods psychologically difficult to accept. None of them happen in the gym. None of them feel like effort in the way that makes you feel like you've earned something. Slowing down a rep feels like doing less. Eating for your gut feels like a digestion conversation, not a muscle conversation. Sleeping more feels like the opposite of discipline. And so people keep doing more volume, more sessions, more supplements, when the science is pointing in the complete opposite direction. The bottleneck is almost never the stimulus. It is almost always the environment in which recovery is trying to happen. Your body wants to build muscle. It is extraordinarily good at it when you stop blocking the process with the wrong variables and start supporting it with the right ones. The capacity was always there. The information was always available. What was missing was someone willing to have the real conversation instead of selling you the comfortable one. So I want to ask you something in the comments, and be genuinely honest with yourself when you answer. Out of the three methods you just heard, eccentric training, gut health, or deep sleep, which one have you been most completely ignoring? Because the answer to that question might be the exact reason your results have stalled, and the comments below might just be the most useful fitness conversation you have all year.